And I talk to my neighbours, and they tell me that they've got to save up to buy their kids, new shoes, or a new sports outfit, or like the neighbour on the other side of me here. One of their daughters is doing gymnastics, and he's like, "Oh, I've got to buy her a new like leotard thing 'cause she's going into a competition." She's like 9 or 10 years old. Like, these are the sorts of choices people have to make, and what do you do? If I can save $200, $200 a month by extending my mortgage out for 20 years, well, that's what I'm going to do, because how else do I
Do what you have to
survive?
do.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's an awful situation. Like, I just feel so horrible for the everyday Australian who's trying to make things work.
Speaking of what is going on, I think that we need to highlight this point.
Okay.
And a story's come out from news.com.au that Aussies are desperate mortgage act is costing big as an interest rates inflation bite. What's happening is that a lot of Australians now are choosing to extend the length of their mortgage in a desperate bid to kind of keep those ever-increasing inflation rate payments up. And experts are saying, look, that's a short-term fix. It'll bring long-term pain.
Certainly will.
With the interest that you have to pay over the length of the loan. And so that's a really fascinating thing, that you wonder how many politicians are actually in touch with that as well, with what's going on. And it's harder for those getting into the property market to actually make that big step into it as well.
What are people supposed to do? Like, you have to sacrifice. If you're struggling to eat, look, I don't have children, but my neighbours have kids, and I see the desperation. Like, I feel really bad when I pull the Bentley out off the garage, because I don't actually live in a particularly big area, like a particularly wealthy area, right? And I talk to my neighbours, and they tell me that they've got to save up to buy their kids, new shoes, or a new sports outfit, or like the neighbour on the other side of me here. One of their daughters is doing gymnastics, and he's like, "Oh, I've got to buy her a new like leotard thing 'cause she's going into a competition." She's like 9 or 10 years old. Like, these are the sorts of choices people have to make, and what do you do? If I can save $200, $200 a month by extending my mortgage out for 20 years, well, that's what I'm going to do, because how else do I survive? I mean, it's an awful situation. Like, I just feel so horrible for the everyday Australian who's trying to make things work.
I've just got it's come through a comment there as well, unpopular opinion, and excuse me for the fact that I can't see this far, but popular opinion about go to the remote communities and live there. Effectively you wouldn't want to be controlled and have your lives run by these folk. And I would actually agree with that as well. It's like anything, too far extreme either way doesn't work, right? I think that, and I mean, this is a bit of a dream, but wouldn't it be nice if Australia was run by the majority of Australians, middle Australia, because that's where most of us fit. Why do we have to live in these extremes? Why do we have to have? We certainly don't want to promote any socialism or communism here, but there is absolutely no need in this country for the poverty at the other end, right? And and there's no need for this elitism either. And elitism and money are not always sort of joined at the hip.
Well, it's interesting.
Aaron, people have said this to me before, right? Like, obviously, it's well known public information that I won the $20 million chase. And I've had some amazing success and some amazing losses, but some amazing success with horse racing and dog racing and various things. I've never met anybody who's come up to me and said, "You're a piece of shit. I hate you." I've never, well, other than my exes, I've never met anybody who has said that to me, right? Because generally, what people come up to me and do is they say, "Hey, like, can you tell us how you got there? Like, show us how to do it."
Yeah.
But the way government policy works is like, you're a horrible, terrible person. How dare you be successful?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, then, like, what are you hoping people are going to do? You want the government will sit there and encourage you to start a small business. They'll give you some subsidies, even. I believe, I've never had them, but I believe that you can get some subsidies. Then they'll say, if you're successful, they'll trot you out and say, "Hey, look at this person who's so successful." But there gets to a point where if you're too successful, then all of a sudden you're a terrible pariah. And I don't get it. It's like what's going on? But that's not how the everyday person acts. The everyday person, and I get emails all the time, even now, from people that say, "Hey, like, can I learn trading?" I normally send them to Derek, but can I learn trading? Can you tell me more about what you do? Can you tell me more about how I might be able to improve my life? I don't get emails from people that say, "Hey, you're rich," which I'm not, but I'm okay. Like, I'm doing okay. But I don't get emails from people that say, "You've got more than I've got. You're a piece of shit. You should lose half of everything in taxes."
Look,
I
okay,
just
we
don't
sit
get
here
those
right
sorts of
now.
emails.
Yeah, look, we sit here right now, and I will go straight right now. The sales pitch down the camera. This is why we have people like Derek in this position in this studio right now, Blue Sky Factory, because this is about education. I want people to learn these incredible skills that will improve their life. Okay, and this is not about wealth from the point of view of being gluttonous and terrible. This is about buying your freedom, having options, looking after your family, doing the best. And if you haven't got that education, and as I say, Blue Sky Factory is a fantastic way to do it. But I'm sure sort of everybody's different, and they'll get different things from your courses. I guess is probably from my point of view. If you get this education, you see better ways of doing it. You can build a better life, and it is not about the fact that you want to be fancy or you want to have this or that. It is about doing the best for your family and creating a future for them, beyond your and a legacy.
And if I can just very quickly say to Aaron, look, I know you're trying to cater to a right-wing Christian conservative audience. However, for everybody else, let me just correct Aaron. There is nothing wrong with being gluttonous. It's perfectly okay.
I was just going to say something like this. Why do we apologize for being fancy?
Okay, that's a really good
we're in agreement. Oh, there's something that's never happened before.
Because, I mean,
okay. On that front, you were talking about the tall poppy, and a lot of people don't know my history or whatever, but I actually have had success in the past. And okay, I drove a very fancy car. In fact, I had a collection of cars. I've done well. Okay, my greatest failing in life is my incredible ability to choose women who like my stuff more than me. But I've had those. I used to drive a gorgeous Porsche, and I'll tell you right now, you take it some places and people treat you fantastically. You take it to other places and people treat you like it's just the norm. And you take it to other places and people will spit on you, right? And this is something that we should be rewarding and celebrating people who are trying to step up and make something of their lives and find success. My focus has absolutely changed, and so I don't see the need now for fancy things. I've been there, done that. Okay, got the t-shirt, right? Now that I've moved to a different stage of my life.
Okay, I'll take it off. Fine, Aaron, if that's what you're trying to say. Okay, like, all right, here, I'll take it off.
But creating a legacy for my children's future and to create a better world for my children is my priority. It's far more than the tinsel.
And I agree with you. Look, in the sense that, yes, as you get older, your priorities change, right? The way I behaved when I was single is a lot different from now that I have a wife and 4 kids.
Of course.
Absolutely, I've changed. But my point is I remember hearing on the radio one time on Talkback Radio, well, Australians don't want to see Aussies driving around in luxurious cars. And I thought, why not?
No.
What is wrong with that? Why do we apologize for success?
Why do we?
And that's what we've got to get out of our headspace. And it's not, you're right, it's not about the stuff. Okay, it's not about the toys. There is more meaningful things around that. But why should we punish other people for having some nice stuff as well at the same time?
There's a service station next door.
Can I just jump in on that though? Do you know why I think Australians are punishing people? I don't think it's because of jealousy. I think it's because of resentment. And it's resentment that I think I can understand. It's resentment from people who come into this country from overseas, who haven't had to put up with all of the ridiculous regulations that keep us back here in Australia, who, I'm not going to name particular ethnicities, but, you see some 25-year-old driving around a Ferrari, and you've lived in this country your whole life, and you can barely, afford to rent a one-bedroom apartment. Or, you're sitting there trying to survive in Osmond Park or something because you can't afford to actually have a house.
Well, okay,
that maybe it is these days, but that's what leads to a lot of resentment. It's when you look at people who work for government and they're getting ahead. They're able to have all these nice things while you're sitting there working your ass off and you can't get anywhere. I think I'm one of the very few people. I mean, obviously, because I've got the Bentley, I drive, I'm part of the Bentley Club and stuff like that. And I'm the youngest person in it. I just turned 40. And the only other people that are within cooey of my age are people who can barely speak English, who, aren't paying our taxes, who have all this like international business and stuff. And everyone else are like old Aussie blokes that, have saved up their whole life and they own like some 50-year-old Bentley because they've always wanted one. Like, what's going on? We should be able to have. You go to California. I know people in California that their 16, 17-year-old kids are driving around in Ferraris because it only costs them $600 a month to lease a Ferrari. Right now, I'm not saying $600 a month is nothing, but there's a lot of people in this country that could afford to do that. There's a lot of 16, 17-year-old kids that I know, because we're all dumbasses when we're that age, that'll say, I'm going to go get a job at McDonald's and I'm going to work there 2 days a week, right? And I'm going to spend my entire paycheck renting a Ferrari because I can rock up to school in a Ferrari. You can't even get to that point if you're here in Australia because luxury car tax and all these other things. So I think that because of how far the government tries to hold us back, there's a lot of resentment, and I can totally understand why. There's a lot of resentment from people.
And it's not like we have to protect the local car industry anymore.
No, we don't.
That's the big thing. And yet you still got the luxury car tax. It didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, why hasn't that disappeared?
Exactly.
Look, you look. Our rego in Western Australia is double what it should be. From we were paying back the debts of WA Inc. Do you remember WA Inc? That was in the 80s. Okay, we're almost 40 years ago. We're still paying that. So they're very good at introducing a tax or a cost or expense, and certainly very well. They find it extremely hard to take it away. I just want to throw quickly to the comments because again, this is very important. I love being interactive. So Sharon, great point. I've left it up on the screen there. Really important. I mean, we should be really thinking about community and not the old government as much as so many people do. And
beautiful comment from Sharon. Don't buy your bread at Woolworths. Go down to your local baker. Right? So okay, maybe it's going to cost you an extra 20 cents, for the loaf. But they put their heart and soul into that. Go down to your local baker. Just go to your local, fruit and veggie grocer. That sort of stuff. Absolutely, Sharon. I think that's
she's right. And it won't be full of it won't be full of chemicals as well. I want to bring up this comment as well about the feelings about Gina Reinhardt. Absolutely. Look, Gina's. I mean, look, I don't know the woman personally, but she's put a lot of work in there. Yes, of course, it was inheritance from her father, but at the same time, I would like to think that I would be able to build a business and hand that to my children one day as well. So, there is all this hatred towards people who have created wealth or enjoying wealth. Just remember, they are working bloody hard.
Well, this is the thing about Gina. To her defense, she was going to sponsor the netball.
Yeah.
They all complained it wasn't green enough for them. It's like, okay, fine. I'll take my money back. And I thought, good on her. Right? You're going to go.
I'm not going to comment too strongly about Gina. I think we all know that I know that family, but it wasn't about her being green. It was about a comment that her father made, 80 years ago, whatever, right? Like, come on now, but notice that James Packer doesn't get that many comments made about him. Why? Because he hasn't actually been that successful, has he? Right. So people don't sit there and say anything about the people that inherited money and weren't successful, but they'll tear strips off the people that were or that are.
I'm going to actually I'll go somewhere that no one would expect me to go. I think that a part of the reason that Gina Reinhardt gets a little bit of bad time is her gender, to be absolutely frank. I think that there is a certain level of negativity because she's a successful woman, and in some worlds that is a negative thing. So I think there might be a bit of a hangover there. I see more points coming in, which are really great to see. Obviously, without a car industry, we will become subject to a next world power. Well, geez, there seems to be a lot of Chinese built cars coming to Australia. Just don't know if you've noticed. I certainly have. Look, unbelievable. We should have an industry here in Australia. It's been destroyed by successive governments.